consumer investor. But the trick is to start to get out of the mindset of I need to buy this, because that's one of the biggest things in the hood. You got to look like you got money. So, oh, let's go buy $300 shoes. Let's go buy this $500 bag so I can look like I got it like that. Let me have all this jewelry on, and that makes me look like I'm wealthy. Or, let me go, spend all this money to trick out my car and shit like that. But I don't own my home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
renting in my home. And, buying your home is an investment. That's a fucking investment. I watched my brother, and I'm proud of my brother. My brother, about 10, 11 years ago, probably more than that, he jumped on when the housing market crashed in 2008. He jumped on it. They had this new development up in North Carolina, and he jumped on it. They were just trying to get people in. So they were giving these fucking loans out to people, and he jumped on that. And for what he paid for his home, which was like maybe 100 grand at the time, to sell your home at like 200 grand, that's an
Hmm.
investment. You know what I mean? To get that kickback. And then only having to really put like maybe minor detail to, make it look a little good to sell it, but not like crazy. That's a fucking investment. But we're so spending our money all the time. When are you going to get the money to get your home? And the biggest thing about it is, like I said, especially if you got that 401k nest egg, in a couple years, you'll have a down payment. You'll be surprised. You'll be like, oh shit, I got money it's tucked away, and now I can get a home because I have the down payment. But we struggle with this because our mindset is buy, impulse shop, buy. um and not to say not to go out and have a good time, because I'm not saying that at all. Live life too, but at the end of the day, are you investing in anything that's going to create wealth for you? Because that's one of the things that I didn't like. I was really poor as a child. Like, we were like, people on the block had, at the time, Reebok was a thing. Okay, so Nikes wasn't really that big when I was a kid. Reebok was like it, right? And then of course Jordans came in the 90s. But I remember people having Reeboks, and we didn't have, we couldn't have that. Pro Wings were like the shitty shoes, and we couldn't even afford those. So one of the things it taught me is just that, fuck that shit. Like, cause I had to anyway. There wasn't I didn't have a choice. We had to deal with it. So it made me just feel like, no, fuck that. I could go to a store and buy four pairs of shoes to the price of the motherfucking Nikes or Jordans that people were, running off to go buy. One of the biggest things to
Yeah.
adopt the investor mindset is just first start asking yourself, do I need this right now? And most of you guys, I guarantee, if you start cleaning out your closets and shit, you're gonna see a bunch of shit that you do not fucking need.
Right. Mhm. Yeah.
You know, right,
It is
right,
true though, because sadly enough, I'm freaking 38 years old without a driver's license and probably never will have one. And that's because I racked up tickets. As soon as I hit 18 and I was driving, speeding ticket, no insurance, whatever. And nobody taught me how much of a big deal it was to not pay your tickets, or what would
right,
happen if you ended up without a license. And it's just like the thing with credit. Like, you turn 18 and you get all the credit cards that they're going to allow you to. You go to every department store and they offer it to you, and you're like, hell yeah, I'll take it. And then you don't pay it
right,
back. And you're like, no fucking big deal. What are they going to do to me, right? And then down the line, you can't get shit because of what you did. And now
right,
you're just in this rabbit hole. And none of our parents, I can't say none of our parents because I don't know what your parents did, but I know growing up in the hood and growing up with people who didn't have that generational wealth,
right.
we didn't know what to do. And
Nope.
so we just allowed ourselves to get tickets. We allowed ourselves to get bad credit. We allowed ourselves, now this, I feel like this little bit of new generation that's coming out of there, coming into being grown, are kind of looking at what other people have due to credit. And so they're being a little bit smarter. But
Right, right,
but at the same time, they're getting high interest rates and all kinds of crazy cards because they don't even understand that. But that's because nobody taught us. Nobody
Right.
taught us. Nobody taught us what it was like to put money into an actual. What's the difference between a savings and a checking? Half of
Right.
us don't even know that your savings accrues interest if you
Right.
actually leave your fucking money there.
Right.
I thought
Right.
savings was just something that, sounds like it's savings. Okay, that's where I save, and then I can move it to my checking. I didn't understand how much I should be looking at a savings account and what they pay on interest. I didn't
Right.
understand none of that. So nobody teaches us these things. And then we
Right.
just stay there. The thing about these wealthy people is they put their kids on their credit. And so when these
Right.
kids turn 18, they're coming out 18 with credit scores of 800 already because their
Right.
parents have carried them on their credit.
Right. My daughter is 24 and she probably has like fucking 5 credit cards. And I mean, oh, excuse me, 6 credit cards. And I mean, it's ridiculous but one of the things that I started differently was instilling this about credit, 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 and blah, 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 which I'm glad I did because she has 6. And I mean, she has like good fucking amounts on her credit cards. Excuse me. She's in the background talking. But it is because when I turned 18 and everybody was approving me for shit, oh my God, that we don't even want to talk about it.
Right.
We don't want to go back to that.
And
But no one taught me how to you don't need to spend your whole credit card. You know what I mean? You don't need to
no,
spend the limit. You don't need to max out your credit card every fucking month. You don't need to max this shit out. And then there's all these techniques, of course. If you keep your credit card under 25%, you're golden.
mhm,
Your fucking rates are, I mean, your credit score is going to keep going up as long as you keep it within those marks. You can spend up your credit card. Let me tell you, you can spend up as long as you pay it before your due date. So let's say you want to max it out as long as you fucking pay it before your due date. That shit, you never see the fluctuation of your score. It's when you leave it on there and you max it out, and then they look at it and your score drops and it goes up. So there are some tricks to using your credit cards and using it for your advantage. One of the things that I did back in 2016 when I was rebuilding my credit. So I got into rebuilding my credit was I would purchase big items and then I would just pay it off before my due date. And then my shit just kept skyrocketing. But you have to be able to pay that. You got to be able to drop that couple of
mhm.
hundred or whatever to get it back underneath the standing. Otherwise, you're just fucking yourself basically. So it's just thinking about smarter moves as we go into it. And you guys know one of the things that we are about is empowerment. So anything that I feel like I'm learning that I can help or introduce, and you guys, if you guys have information, drop it in the comments. Like, let's have a
They,
conversation. Because I feel like this is the empowerment time for us to get out of, especially coming from any type of ethnic communities where we didn't have this fucking information, where we weren't taught this shit, you
well, the
know?
thing is, Cassandra, is they do, right? I remember home ec and we used to learn how to cook and sew a blanket and blah, 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 which is great and fine. They even taught us, I believe, how to write a check and balance a checkbook. They didn't
Not in
teach
my
you that there was something as far as savings goes. They didn't teach us about interest rates. They didn't teach us. But the thing about schools is right now, I do feel like sooner or later there'll be a reform to it. But right now, they're so busy making workers and
right,
not thinkers, all the way down to the way they test their students. There's one right answer: work by yourself, don't work as a team. This is an
right,
individual thing. How much can you remember? How much can you read and remember? How well can
right,
you follow directions? And that's because they're
right,
making workers. So when you get out and you get a job, you know how to follow directions. You know how to
yeah,
listen to authority. You don't know how to work as a team. You don't know how to think other than there being one right answer and one way to do things.
right,
So I
right.
don't feel like it will be anytime soon. I hope it changes. I really hope it changes.
I
Um,
mean, the
but the thing
curriculum
is
is
that
insane.
if you look at the reality of it, If all of us became business owners, what would happen to the stock market? What would happen to the corporate world? What it would fall apart. They need to have people they can pay $13 an hour that are willing to do whatever they tell them to do. They
Right,
have to
right.
be willing to have these people. If we are able to think for ourselves, this world is going to have to restructure it in ways that we can't even fathom right now, which is sad to
Real
say.
shit. Real shit.
It's all about the
Because
weather of everything.
remember, we are in a capitalist, it's a capitalist world that we're living in. You guys, you have to remember that when you are thinking about stuff, because we're not just in a world of fluffy whatever. We're in a capitalist. That means that people are pushing to make money off of consumers. It's a consumer like life. So they're pushing, pushing, pushing for people to be those consumers. If you're spending up all your money, you're the consumer, and that's what they want. If you look at the curriculum in education, it hasn't fucking changed in
Mhm.
decades. I mean, back in the day when they knew people wouldn't even fucking make it past third grade, you
Yeah.
know? So even my grandmother was one of the people, she didn't go past like eighth grade, but she went on to go into business because you really didn't need fucking degrees and shit like that in her time. And she went into business and did really good. But it's structured to basically get you ready for the
Yeah.
workforce, to be an
Yeah.
employee. That's it.
Even if you think about it, I remember when I started college, there was a course that I had to take. And it was basically teaching you, what to do in college, how to study, how to do this, how to do that.
Right.
Did anyone fucking give us a have to course about pulling out $60,000 worth of student debt? Did anyone give
That
us
is
a
not,
course on that? Was that
there's
mandatory?
no course.
No, but it was mandatory that I learned how to fucking study. It was mandatory
Right.
that I learned how to use the computer. Where the fuck is that at? Because now you got kids even going to school just to pull out a student loan and then
Right.
fucking themselves with getting
Right.
stuck with student loans or being on academic probation or any of that. Like, did anyone make me take a damn course on what the hell to do with my student loans and how not to
Right.
add my student loans up? No,
Right. I
but they sure
still,
let me take
the fucked up thing about student loans too is it's designed to fuck you up. It's designed to keep you in debt. Okay. So I still owe on a student loan over 10 years now from when I went to school for a medical assistant, which is like what, an 8, 9 month course, right?
them.
And that's not even a certification, that's just a diploma program. And I still am struggling because the interest on a student loan is fucking ridiculous. If you are not paying 600, $700 on that student loan, you're not doing shit. You're not even tapping the principal of your loan. You're barely, if you're doing these little $50 payments a month after you get out of school, and you go into deferment because you can't pay it, so they keep deferring it. Luckily, if you go into deferment, they're not charging interest, and that's the best thing you should do for yourself. If you can't pay it, go on deferment so that the interest stops, because if not, you never crack that interest. You're just paying, and you literally, if you're not paying $600 to $700 a month on your fucking school loans, you will be paying that shit a decade, 2 decades. You'll be
Yeah,
3 decades. It's like fucking paying for a house. You'll be paying on this shit because you can't do it. You can't get there. And I think my fucking loan was about the same thing. It maybe have been 10 grand for the program, probably not even 10 grand. And it's like, but now you want to know how much I've paid and how much I still fucking owe? It's like I've never paid anything. And if I go through any time where when you're looking at the years, it's like, when am I going to hit the fucking interest? When am I going to hit the principal?